Instagram and people listening wherever you're listening from, because I will repurpose this and share it other places. I'm Peg Fitzpatrick, and today we are going to talk blogging, and I am going to invite my friend Mike Allton to join me. So let me just grab Mike, and then we will. And we have other people. Hi, other people who have joined. Mike will be coming in 1 second. We'll just wait. Hello, everybody. Hey, Mike. Whoop,
Hello.
my voice just went. Ah. How you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
I guess I'm excited, given the fact that my voice just went crazy. It's a live person. It's Mike.
Right?
I
That's
know.
awesome.
Well, usually we're just working in our offices. Although you're podcasting now, so you're probably talking to people all day long, right?
All day, every day. It's a little crazy. That is not my comfort zone, but I'm doing it.
It should be by now. You've probably already done like how many have you recorded total?
Oh, I don't even know because it's been over multiple shows. So
Right.
several
I
hundred
see.
shows, several hundred interviews. But the whole reason we're here is for blogging,
I
and
know.
that's because that's what I love to do the most
Me
is
too.
turn off the lights, enjoy the fall weather and a PSL, and write by myself.
It's I feel that too. So everybody who is watching and listening later, Mike and I have been friends for over a decade, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I think at this point, Google Plus was like what, 2011 or
Yep.
something?
That's
I don't remember when
right.
that started. So anyway, we've been friends for over a decade, and one of the things that we really bonded over was blogging because we both truly love blogging. Is our first like that's what we would do. If we had a choice, there would be no, well, I mean, we still did live video when we blogged too, but
Yeah.
um once it was invented.
Right? We
We're
are
dating
pre-live
ourselves.
video people here.
It's true
That's
though.
sad.
I know, but I was saying that like we used to go live, but not until it was invented
That's
because it wasn't
right.
even live then. So anyway, we have both been blogging for a really long time. But Mike, can you just tell us a little bit about who you are, and why you love your blog?
Yeah, so I was actually doing website development
Mm.
in the mid 2000s, and that did not go well at all. I had so many issues where I'd build these super powerful websites for customers and they wouldn't use them. I was using a platform called Drupal that most people probably have never heard of. It was a competitor to WordPress. But in order to market that business, I started blogging about social media and digital marketing to try to help those customers excel once I delivered to them a small business focused website. And in that process, I discovered how much I enjoyed teaching people through written content how to do whatever, whether it was, Twitter, LinkedIn, blogging, email, buying office furniture. It didn't really matter to me back then. I was blogging about all kinds of things. So I closed up the web development shop, and I started the social media hat in 2011 purely to give myself a place to blog. Honestly, I
Mhm.
had no business model. I had no dreams or aspirations.
There wasn't
I just wanted to
really
be
a
able to write.
business model for
No,
blogs in the beginning.
no, not really.
I mean, it took a while for business models for anything to become a thing. Now it seems commonplace. People are like, "Well, I'm just going to do this, and then I'll make this money by doing X." None of those
Yeah,
paths existed at the time, and then it gradually turned into like you would do partnerships with companies and things like that to make money. And in
yeah,
the social media
yeah.
space, we had certain you know things that we would do that would also make money, but yeah, it was in the beginning, it was not a big money maker. And now a lot of the big, huge blogs that did it and were making a lot of money are gone.
That's true. Like, I guess Mashable is still hanging around, but that was one of the big ones back in our day.
Hmm.
That was just impacting everybody. I don't know how many people really tune into Mashable these days, but for me, it
Never
was
hear anything about it anymore.
no, and it was off and on as a side hustle, as a primary gig, back to a side hustle. I was a CMO for a company for years. I've been now with Agorapulse for 7 years, so that's my full-time job. The social media continues to be a side hustle for me. I'm probably, I don't know, a couple thousand articles now
Hmm.
that have been published over the years. Many have been unpublished, like a whole treasure trove of Google Plus content that's no longer relevant to anybody. So all of that had to be unpublished. But yeah, that's where I'm at today.
It's crazy. I actually was just checking something before this, and it linked to an article that I wrote that was on HubSpot's blog. Guy and I wrote it, and it was about how to socialize an event. And they used the URL and they changed it to different content. And I was
Yeah.
like, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, HubSpot blog.
Right.
So, so a lot of people feel like blogging is dead. And I don't know if you saw it, but I had this post on Threads over the weekend that I just like had a little rip on, God, I'm totally blanking on it because it isn't even something I planned on talking about, but I had a little rip on all the Substack blogs because
Oh
people
no,
call
yeah,
them.
that's right. About owning your own content. I saw that.
Yes, because people are like, join my Substack, subscribe here, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. But and they're all like, it's my own and I own it because that's what it says in their terms of service. But every time you're there, it's kind of like Huffington Post, another big, huge place. You could write there, but they just want to keep you there. They're not interested in if you grow or if you have subscriptions. They want to keep people on Substack. So what's your thought on that?
Well, I'm going to take everybody down memory lane because I've often dubbed myself the unofficial historian of the internet and social media in particular because I've been blogging about the platforms so much,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like one of the ways that you and I differed was, at least my impression, was that you focus really well on social media strategies and tactics and that sort of thing. Whereas, for almost a decade, I was writing almost exclusively about the platforms themselves and some, some respect to the tools and strategies, but I was talking about what's happening on LinkedIn or Twitter back in the day and so on. And I want to take everybody back to, it's been about a decade. I think it was 2014. There was a site called Posterous
Mm.
where 4 million individuals were posting their content. It's very much like Substack
Yeah.
10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
4 million people were posting there and using that to house their content. Twitter
Yep.
bought it and shut it down. And
Yep.
4 million people suddenly had no home for their content, no home for probably their entire business. Because if they're blogging on Poster, it's probably where they were sending people from their other social channels, and it was
Right.
just gone overnight.
Yep. And Medium, similar. I mean,
Yeah.
Substack has they're trying to tell you it's your email and it's your all these things, and you can get your email addresses. But my thing is, if people are on Substack and they go to Substack, maybe they don't want you to take their
Mm.
email address and put it somewhere else. I have been added to people's Substacks that I didn't request, and I'm like, I didn't ask for this, and I don't want to go read there, but I will go read people's websites,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just wondered what you thought about that because I kind of just posted it. There was a New York Times article where Tina Brown, who's a huge traditional media person, is joining Substack to share her views and break it. And I was just like, that's ridiculous. She is not. That is not independent. She's not away from tradition. It's not. And I was just like, that's wrong. So
Yeah.
that's where my little hot take came was like a response to that because I was like, no, people, you need. That's the number one thing is you need your own platform and you need somewhere where you can put your own stuff because you don't want to send people to someone else's thing. We do that
Nope.
enough with Instagram where we are right now or any social platforms. We are giving up a lot already to have the quote unquote exposure that we're getting here. So I don't know, people. I still say that you need your own website. Maybe blogs are
Yeah.
not as popular, but I still feel like you need that place that's yours.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's ever going to
100%.
change.
No, you absolutely need to have that place that you own, that you can control not just the data and that sort of thing, but what about the overall experience? Yeah, you send somebody
Right.
to a Substack article, but it's not your brand in the masthead. It's
They're on
Substack. It's not your
Substack.
content in a sidebar or a footer. It's Substack's content or somebody else's content, right? It's like sending somebody to YouTube, to a
Hmm.
YouTube video. Well, what happens next? What happens after they view that YouTube video?
Right.
Could be somebody else's.
Yeah.
And
The
one of the big issues
recommended
with
bar
X
on the
today
side.
is, the videos associated with your content or the posts associated with your content might not be things that you actually want to be associated with.
Right.
You have no idea and no control. So those are dangers.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So, for small business who maybe neglected their blogs, maybe they tried, they got a little stuck and they stopped. What are some benefits to getting back into it for a small business?
Well, I love this question because the emphasis is on small business, right? We're not talking to bloggers. We're not talking to content creators. We're not talking to people who are looking at the blog itself as a source of income. That's not you if you're a small business owner. Your blog should be there to help drive other business goals. Now, what those business goals are, that can vary a great deal. It could be to drive traffic, although increasingly we're seeing that's probably not even a good goal.
Right.
2025, 2026, I would not be looking for organic search traffic from Google or Bing because of our AI overlords and that sort of thing, which is fine. Most of the traffic, I'm sure you'd agree with me, most of the traffic we get from search engines doesn't do anything or go anywhere anyways. They're hitting articles that, frankly, we probably prefer they didn't read. My number one my number one article is how to.
You froze for me. I'm hoping you did not freeze for everybody.
Oh no, am I there yet?
Um, you
You're
are
okay for me.
now.
Okay.
Are you guys at home? Are you guys seeing us freeze at all? If you are, we're still talking.
Yeah,
So anyway,
let me
your number
know
one
because
article I heard.
everyone looks fine on me. So yeah, my number one article is how to tag and mention people on Facebook. And so
Uh,
people are hitting that article every single day, mostly because they want to find out how to untag themselves or not be mentioned by like an
yeah.
ex-boyfriend or something on Facebook. So this isn't business traffic for me, right?
Right.
This is just randos searching how to do something on the internet. So they hit the article and then they go back. As a business, we want to be thinking about what is our content marketing strategy. In fact, I got to be honest, I use the term blogging less and less these
Mm-hmm.
days. I now talk about content marketing because I see that as a distinction between the people who are creating the content for the sake of creating content and the businesses who are using it as part of some flywheel motions. And
Mm-hmm.
some of those motions could be making sure that you've got great content to put in advertising that you're paying to get in front of your target audience, like LinkedIn, even Facebook and Instagram, depending on who you're trying to target with your business. If you're trying to reach people for the very first time, you need what we call top of funnel content.
Mm-hmm.
And blog posts are amazing for that. Create something interesting and relevant to your target audience and put in an ad and get it out there in front of it. And that is where you can control who's seeing the content. You can control how much those people are seeing it. And then, of course, you can control what happens next because you own the content. You're not on Substack, right?
Right.
So throughout that
Right.
article, in the sidebar, even an exit pop-up intent, right? You can have calls to action and other kinds of hooks to get them to do something else after they've read that high-level content. And that's just one way that small business owners can use blogs. And the reason I lead with that example is because that doesn't necessitate that you create 50 pieces of content.
Right.
That's one blog post,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you think very strategically about the kind of content that you need, the people that you want to reach, you might only need to create 5 blog posts in an entire year
Mm-hmm.
if you're being very strategic about how you're using them.
Right.
So that appeals, I think, to small business owners. You
Mm-hmm.
can use them for the sales funnel, right? Where if you're talking to prospects, and it's not like you're selling a $10 widget. Maybe you're selling a service or something more expensive, and there's an actual buyer cycle where it might take days, weeks, even months.
Mm-hmm.
Blog content is great for arming your sales staff with things that they can reach out to people on LinkedIn or email funnels where you
Yeah.
get somebody in your email list and every week you want to send them something else to keep them engaged and moving through that journey. Those are great uses for blog content and don't require that you be blogging even on a weekly
Right.
basis.
Do you have a strategy where you update your old content? Like if you not maybe your Facebook
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
tagging one, but like if you have an article, man, I have an article that I've changed multiple times because it's about Pinterest hashtags and Pinterest
Yeah.
keep changes their mind on it all the time. So I'm like, they work, they don't work. They say don't use them, they're using them. So I update that because it's specifically like Pinterest hashtags is like the title and it does get traffic. Like I do get Pinterest article traffic to my website. So but also on a company blog that I write on, I do update content there too, if things update and change. And I think back in the day when I wrote content, it would have been shorter. It wouldn't have as many examples. So
Yeah.
sometimes I do go back and I update SEO, and just judge the posts, like
Judge.
give it more, give it more juice and meat and have it be more helpful. Do you ever do that?
Yeah, and I think that's an absolutely smart strategy for any business, for any model just pay attention to the people you're trying to reach, the content that you're trying to use to reach them, whether that's through organic search, paid advertising, organic social, email marketing, whatever the reason is, you're going to want to make sure that that content that you're using or relying on is as up to date as possible. If you are using organic search, if you're relying on that, then you absolutely have to be, updating those old posts. And there's a couple easy ways to do them. Like you mentioned, making sure that, they're long enough by today's standards, that they're up to date with the information. One thing that I love to do that a lot of people don't talk about enough is what I call forward linking, where when you're creating a new piece of content, it's pretty standard to look for opportunities within that new article to link back to old content that you've already created. We call it deep linking or backlinking, right? People don't typically go back to those older articles and link forward to the newest post, but you should. And it's an
Yeah.
easy way to update that content. So if you've got an old article about, surfing in your neck of the woods in Mexico, because maybe you rent cabanas down there, and you've written additional articles on, how to plan that trip, go back to those old articles and look for opportunities to link to the new one. And I recently found an app called Link Whisper. That's a WordPress plugin that does this for you using AI. I love it. So you're
I'll
you're
check
you're
that out.
drafting a brand new post. Oh yeah, check it out. You're drafting a new post. Once you get that post into WordPress and it's saved as a draft, refresh so that Link Whisper has an opportunity to actually review it. And at the bottom of the post, still in edit mode, it will look for opportunities within your current post to link to your old content, which is amazing because it'll find all kinds of
Yeah.
stuff that you forgot you even wrote. So that's great. And then you can click a button and it'll open in a new window, a new report still inside your WordPress website that shows all the other articles that could be edited to insert a link to the one that you're about to publish. And you could insert up to 50 links at a time throughout your old
Wow.
content. So if you've been blogging for a while, like you and I have, and you've got
Yeah.
a hefty archive of
Yep.
content, that tool is invaluable.
I love that. I'll definitely be checking that out. Um, how can AI tools assist in making the blogging process easier for small business owners or people that have a blog? I know you like AI.
I do. I love me some AI. Now, the one thing I'm going to tell you is don't let the AI write the post for you, generally
Mm-hmm.
speaking. And I'm going to say that generally. I'm not going to say just like never ever blanket do that, because if you're a dry cleaning company in Madison, Wisconsin, right?
Uh-huh.
And you just need to have some content on your site to help your target audience in Madison with their dry cleaning needs. You know what? Honestly, between you and I bet AI content, completely AI drafted content, would probably be
Might be
just
okay.
fine.
Yeah.
Particularly
You
if
still
you
have to
have
check
taken
it.
the time. Yeah, you still have to check it. And I would say, and we're not going to get into the details of how to do this here, but I would still say make sure that you're spending the time up front in training the AI, who you are, who you're targeting as an audience. Like if you're trying to get into, the corporate Madison environment because you want, these women and guys to bring their dry cleaning in after work and pick up the next day, right? You could be creating content for that audience, and you need to make sure that the content's optimized for who you are as a brand
Hmm.
in Madison, Wisconsin, all those kinds of things, which you can easily do. And that's the beauty of AI. If you're using a tool like Claude or ChatGPT, you can create the instructions up front. Spend a lot of time creating these instructions that will allow the AI to craft content that sounds like you and is strategically sound for your business. But that aside, for the rest of us who aren't creating that kind of commodity content, as Andy Christina would call it, I love using AI as a strategist. It's like
Hmm.
everything I've been saying so far, all this advice about, how you could potentially use content and that sort of thing. Any small business owner could sit down with ChatGPT and say, look, here's my business. Ask me questions to help me develop a content marketing strategy
Hmm.
that's going to fit into my bandwidth and budget as a business owner. Maybe you are the marketer for your business because you don't have that kind of
Yeah.
staff, or maybe you've got contractors and freelancers, or maybe you've got a staff. Everyone in between there. You can turn to ChatGPT and have that conversation. And the real magic with AI is when you tell it what you want to accomplish, and then you give it the freedom to ask you questions,
Hmm.
because then you don't have to have the perfect prompt. someone just recently, like yesterday, was asking me, what's the framework for prompting and prompt engineering that I use? I said, I don't use a framework. I just had this philosophy of I tell ChatGPT what I want to accomplish, and I say, ask me questions to help me
Mm-hmm.
get there to that end result. And I mean, I've used it for coming up with brand stories. I've used it with coming up with marketing strategies. I've used it for like completely non-business related things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once it has that freedom to do that, it will like give you a questionnaire.
Yeah.
Like you might need to take some time to figure out the answers to these things because it might be
Yeah.
asking you, you know, what's the average income of your ideal client? You might not know that off the top of your head. So you
Mm-hmm.
might have to do a little digging. You might just say, I don't know. But as long as you enter it that way and you have that conversation with AI and you say, okay, look, I want to build a content marketing strategy
Mm-hmm.
for my business. I can spend a couple hours a month drafting content and ask me questions about what do we want to do. So it'll ask you, who are you trying to promote? It'll ask you all about your business, right? What's your
Yeah.
writing style? You can give it links to existing blog posts that you've written that you're really happy with, that you think perform well, and that will teach the AI
Mm-hmm.
how you write. And at the end of that, now you'll not only have a strategy, but then you'll have kind of a jumping off point to actually executing that strategy. And again, this is where AI can continue to be of service because it can help you brainstorm
Yep.
all kinds of topics of what to write about. It can help you develop comprehensive outlines. Again, this is something I'd love to do because it will help identify for me aspects of a topic that I wouldn't have thought to write about.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of,
It does. It
a
does.
500 or a
Goes all
750
over.
word post, I can hit 1250, 2000, 3000 words in an article and make a really, really comprehensive, fantastic article thanks to AI helping me fill in those blanks.
Right. I, I also like to ask it questions, so just to take the temperature every once in a while. Like we've been working on things, and my brand voice is in there. But can you just explain to me, tell me who my target audience is, and
Hmm.
tell me a little bit about my brand voice. I like to do that just to like make sure, and then it just gives you a little recap, so you don't have to recreate the wheel all the time because you're building your persona in there. But I still like to check it every once in a while. Every once in a while, you get like the random, like you ask it to do something and it's totally off on everything. And you're like, what's going on? And then sometimes I just close that window out and I'll just start over again because I'm like, I don't know what happened in that one. There was like a total glitch in the system, but it
Right.
happens. It's a computer. Have you noticed lately that it's slowed down? It used to shoot the answers out at you super fast, and now it's slowing down like they do on the chatbot, that like big brands use when you're on their website for customer service. They do it like it's actually a person typing, like, and they go, just a second. And then in ChatGPT, just the last couple weeks is doing the same thing. It's not spitting it out so fast. It's giving you time to kind of process it while it's coming out, which is, that's how we like it better. If it goes too fast, it's a little bit like it's impressive, but also like, what is it? you know?
Yeah, yeah, and there's two aspects to that. The first aspect, like you just said, is that it's trying to be more human-like
Hmm.
in its interactions. It's like Data on Star Trek Enterprise.
Yeah.
Not trying to be quite so robotic in every single response. Not giving me when I ask him how long to do something, not giving me down to the milliseconds in terms of answers, because as humans we don't care,
Yeah.
right? Just tell me how many hours until I get there. But the other part of it too that's really interesting is with the latest model of ChatGPT 4.0.
Hmm.
It has been trained to evaluate its own response before it gives it to you,
Mm.
which allows it to be more accurate. It does reflect then a little bit more time that it's
Yeah.
taking to answer,
Yep.
but it's much more accurate. It's more, self reflecting
Yep.
about how it's giving output. So it's better responses.
Yeah, I think so too. What are some common blogging mistakes that you see? Wow, that was like a really Rochester accent there. Blogging, blogging. Hey, Rochester people. Mistakes you see small business make, and how can they avoid those mistakes?
Well, the first big mistake is not creating any kind of blog content at all,
Mm,
or not doing it regularly enough, right? So, and there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of it might be perceived bandwidth, and I say perceived, I'm stressing that because you have time. It's just a matter of priorities. So if you feel like you don't have enough time, then you need to reprioritize some things because you absolutely need to have some content on your blog for all the reasons we've talked about, and honestly, many, many more. I could go on at length about what you can use blog content for and why.
mm-hmm.
But there are also a lot of times people thinking, I'm not good at this.
Mm-hmm.
I have 16 drafts and they all suck, so I'm not going to publish them.
Mm-hmm.
There's those kinds of personal things, in which case I would say, well, first of all, I'm sure they're fine. Second of all, let somebody else look at them.
Yeah.
Somebody that you trust, somebody that is comfortable enough with you to give you frank and candid feedback,
Mm-hmm.
but still be nice and professional and polite about it. Someone that you trust to give that kind of feedback, and you'll accept it, whatever it is. You don't want someone who's just gonna, blow smoke up your butt and say, "Yeah, those are all great, publish them all," when they're not really. But those are two real big issues, I think, that
Yeah,
small businesses just need to get out of their own heads, right?
definitely.
Stop spending 8 hours on a blog post, because honestly, if you're spending 8 hours on a blog post, something's not right there, and you need some help. I'm not saying like you're sick, but I don't know if you're spending too much time editing, you're thinking too hard about
I
it,
think
you're doing too
overthinking
much
is
research.
overthinking is huge.
Oh,
I think all
yeah,
online things. If you're a small business owner, social media and blogging are not your bread and butter. Whatever you do is your main thing. So this is a side thing. So then it comes into the comfort level of like, I don't feel comfortable being on video, and I don't feel comfortable putting content on my blog. But the reality is for small business owners, they are like they have all the passion for the thing that they're doing. So what they're sharing is so great for people to find, whether it's
yes,
just showing how to use your product, whether it's showing the process behind it, there's just all different aspects, but those are things that only you know and only you can share and write. Like even just the story of your company, like it's always a bummer to me when I go to a small business website and they don't have an about page, because I like to go to the about page. I want to know who's behind the company, like whose dog company, like dog sitting company is this. I want to know who
yeah,
that person is, like who are the people in our neighborhood. We want to know, like, it's important. We do like to buy from
yeah,
people that we know and like, and especially if they're local small businesses, it's still an important piece just to tell you, hey, I got kicked off, so Mike and I are going to hop back on. Rudely interrupted. So, anyway, part two. So, we were talking about blogging and some AI, but mostly in social media. What the heck, Instagram? How dare you kick us off? Well, guess what? We're
we
back.
we
And
are,
we're
and it's a
better
good thing
than
because I was
ever.
about to make the most amazing point ever. So some people will
Okay,
see
let's
it, some
hear it.
people won't.
Yeah. So, yeah, I was saying we were talking about blogging and social media and small businesses because I love small businesses. You know what? Before we go more, I was going to show you. Look what I got in the mail yesterday. It's
Wow.
the actual book. I just got it. It was the first, I had it behind me, but I don't know if people could see it.
Oh no, yeah.
First peek, you guys. First peek, new book out.
That's
Yay.
awesome.
Um,
Congratulations.
so thank you. It started blogging, right? It started from blogging and then just kept writing. Then I had a book, but nothing from this book has been on my blog. It's all new, fresh content. That's something that we didn't talk about. That is a very common thing that people used to do, was take their blog content and turn it into books, which
Yeah,
is
I've
still
done it.
valid.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, it's still valid, and it's great because sometimes you get that smaller idea and then you just turn it into something bigger, like Seth Godin.
Right?
Seth
You can either do
Godin.
that where you're taking the blog content and then after a while you turn it into a book, or you have the idea for a book and you start to release chapters of the book, pre-release them as blog posts,
Hmm.
and use that to guide where you go with the book or at least market the book. There's so many wonderful things you can
Yeah,
do.
I started that concept. Oh, wait, I'm just grabbing my paper. I started that concept with I published a couple of the chapters, and they immediately got stolen and put on people's blogs. So I was like, all
Oh,
right,
yeah.
well, never
Guess we're not
mind.
doing that. You should
Thanks
put
a
them on
lot,
Substack.
internet. I know I should do it on Substack. Hey, you guys listening, if you're listening right now, what do you think of Substack? Let us know in the comments. I want to know if you like it. Okay, so we talked about blogging mistakes, frequency.
Yeah, that's right. And I was going to make a comment about that because we were talking about people overthinking
Yes.
their blog content, and I talked about them turning them into research papers. And the point that I was going to make is that one of the absolute biggest mistakes that I see business owners, any kind of blogger, make initially is that they're trying to write in a style that is different from how they normally communicate.
Ah.
And so the best advice I was giving people all the time is write the same way that you would speak, write the same way you would communicate with a prospect or a customer or a partner,
Yeah.
and make your blog content very transparently and authentically sound like you as a business. And one of the easiest ways people can do that is to do exactly what you're doing right now, which is why I love that we're doing this, because you're a small business owner. So you're like the avatar for everybody that we're talking to, and they could all be doing live or recorded interviews just like this, which can be turned into wonderful blog content. They could be interviewing other employees.
Mm-hmm.
They could be interviewing partners in the industry. They could be interviewing customers or prospects. I've got 4 blog posts or 4 podcasts at Agorapulse, and all I do is interview prospects and customers
Yeah.
for those podcasts. So I'm surfacing their stories, and I'm coming across, hopefully very authentically, through the content as a representative of Agorapulse and the kind of business and the work that we do. So that's a really easy, I use that in quotes, right? It's I should say it's not easy. It's a very simple approach
Yeah.
to content marketing
It's a
that any
little bit
business can
easier.
do.
So you connect with someone. This is the second in the series. So I'm doing 7 live streams in the series, one every Tuesday. And at first I was like, I'm just gonna go live and then I'm gonna share it on my Instagram. But I was like, wait, I need to do more of that. So then I edited video. I put the video on YouTube. I turned it into a podcast, and then I turned it into a blog post where I linked to all of those things, because some people aren't going to watch it live. Some people miss it when it's live. And then it just gives you the opportunity. I personally still like to read content more than watching a video or listening to a podcast. It's still my favorite way to absorb content. And those all have to do with our learning styles. And there's, multiple different learning styles. Sometimes you have multiple different ways that you like to learn. I like to visually learn things. Some people like to hear it and they learn things a lot better. And if you remember back when you were in school, did you hate it when the teacher was at the board talking and writing stuff that you had to take notes, or was that your favorite part? Or did you like independently reading and then answering questions? That was 100% me, like reading comprehension, sustained silent reading. Thank you. Like that was like the best part of the day for me. I don't like to listen. I mean, the interesting thing about that is I'm also a speaker, but
Right.
I do, when it's a great speaker, that
Yeah.
is, for some reason, that's different. Like, that when somebody's really, we've been to conferences where we've seen like amazing
Yep.
people. Well, if Brene Brown wants to get up and speak, I am here listening. I'm here, Brene, whenever you want to talk.
Right. Yeah, but you're
She's so
absolutely right.
amazing.
We all have different learning styles. We all have different communication styles and preferences. And particularly, again, if you're a small business owner and you're trying to use this for marketing, you need to understand that. You need to
Yeah.
recognize that, and therefore not just rely on one medium or another. TikToks, Instagram Reels, YouTube videos are fantastic, but you're only going to reach a certain segment of your audience. I do love video for all the reasons you just said. I much prefer to write, like we said in our first live of the day. This is live number 2. But I recognized early on that if I have a video first approach to content marketing, then I can create audio content, then I can create written content, then I can create long form content and short form content, mid form content, and knock it all out by doing that one thing up front, that 30 to 45-minute interview.
And then you have like infinite possibilities for social posts.
Right.
Because you have short form videos, you have long form videos, you have, transcripts that you can take quotes out of. There's so many millions of ways to do things with it at that point. And let's be real, most people want the shorter part of stuff. Maybe they don't want to listen to our whole conversation, but maybe there's, a question and an answer or some of the conversation that could really help them, and that will be pulled out in quotes. So repurposing it is a big thing. I think that's, more than anything else now with content marketing, is creating, I like to call it the hero content. You create that one big hero content, and then you can just turn it into a lot of smaller things that you're sharing out. And people might just like the smaller pieces, but then, they might eventually just be like, yeah, I need to know that whole thing.
Right. And then they're going to come to your blog because that's where you put it. But even then, you can have the written article, the transcript, or a summary, whatever you want to have on the blog, but also have the video. And if you're doing podcasts, have the audio podcast player embedded so
Yeah.
that still that viewer can consume that content the way that they want to consume it.
Hmm.
And I got to tell you, that's amazing for your organic search traffic, for your SEO. Because if someone comes to your website and sits on a blog post and camps out for 45 minutes to listen to a whole interview, oh, Google's going to
They
love that.
that they do love it. And it's great, you know, what the other part that I like about that, which we kind of talked about in part one, is, you know, it gives people, they're at your website. They can
Yeah,
listen to the podcast, but I didn't send them to Apple or Spotify.
right.
It's right there embedded, like Mike said, because I did the same thing. I embed it right there and they can listen to it right there. It's not going to have all the distractions. Any distractions are also me.
Yeah, right.
Me in the sidebar, me in the bottom, my book, like things about me, and me. Welcome to my website.
Yeah,
I mean, that sounds obnoxious, but it's like
a little
it's true
true.
though.
That's what you got to do.
That's the whole goal of getting people there and sending people to watch the video on your website versus YouTube. You can turn off that suggested content so it just plays yours and it doesn't pop other people's stuff up in there. So it's really just all about connecting with people and showing them more of what you have and you know, creating that long form content, whether it's a video first or a podcast first, because you can do the same things with podcasts, you know, have that great conversation with someone. Because as much as Mike and I both like to really write, and we do, we've already admitted we love writing blog posts, having a conversation like this spurs so many more ideas
Yeah.
than you at a blank screen. So anytime when you can just work, you know, have a conversation with someone, they see something and you're like, oh yeah, it just, I always get so many ideas when I talk to people. So it's helpful. That's even helpful too. So we've decided that if you want to create great blog content, you can do video or podcast first, and then you can create it all for your website. That is like a super great shortcut. Even if it's not somebody you don't know, you could do an interview if you have like just people. I don't know. Are you watching the show? Nobody Wants This right
No.
now. Have you watched? Okay. It's podcasting sisters. So the sisters are podcasters.
Okay.
And everything that they do is they talk about their podcast all the time. So it's just two sisters talking about their dating lives on a podcast. So it's that kind of thing. I mean, there's podcasts for everything now. There's a million different kinds of podcasts. So it's just that conversation that gets things flowing. So if you don't feel like you can write, another option for you is to have a conversation with someone and record it and make a podcast, or you can just do a video or a live video. There's a lot of different ways you can do it, but it's so good just to connect with people and have that feedback and like the energy, all the pieces that you get live, you know, or just when you're connecting with someone.
Yeah.
It could be a conversation too. If you don't feel comfortable with those, you could just have a conversation with someone in your small business or another small business owner. You know, if you're just a solo small business owner, which many people are, join the Chamber of Commerce and go to the
Yeah.
meetings and like talk to people at the Rotary Club meeting. These are the places, you know, and then they'll ask you about your business. And then you say, well, blah, blah, blah. And then in that, you're going to have an idea for something that somebody might want to know because they're going to ask you, like, really? That's so interesting. How did you decide to make hand braided leather belts with custom buckles? Like, that's unique. And then you're like, you know what? I never have told people that before. People are interested in how people came up with their ideas, I love seeing how people make things. I saw a girl this morning on Instagram and she just has like this one of those people that has like her whole office is totally aesthetic, like everything. And what she does for her job is she has a design studio and she makes like phone chargers and like custom mats for desks and like everything that she makes is like technology based. And so her aesthetic office really sells all of her products, but it's one of those like she plays the great music and you're
Yeah.
just like it's the peek into someone else's life is really fascinating. You know, like this is just a little part of my office. Mike's got a setup behind him. I moved mine actually. I usually have one that looks very similar to yours with shelves, but I was like, I'm moving to a different corner for my live stream. So this is a different corner. Usually I've had Christmas books up there. I have like art up there that I like. I have hats over here, you know. And then if I go way over, you get into the jewelry section. So there's different parts of my office. I don't show it all, but that girl is like all, she shows everything and she talks about it. And that is her content. And that sells her, that's what she sells. So it's really interesting. There's so many different ways to as a small business owner, because that's what she is. She creates things and then she 3D prints them and sells them, and they sell out because they're cool and they love, like, I think she has like 400,000 followers or something on Instagram, and
Wow.
her videos are just like relaxing and calm, and she's not selling you anything in the video. She's just showing you her new desk setup. So you don't have to overthink it for your content,
Yeah.
whether it's on written or video or anything. So I feel like I've taken a lot of your time. So how, how can business owners measure their success, Mike? We'll wrap up we'll wrap up our blogging with how can they measure their success?
Well, certainly you can look at traffic and you can look at leads, sales, contacts, that kind of thing. All that's very easily measurable with Google Analytics or even some of the built-in tools within WordPress. You can see how many people are coming to your content and then what's happening next. You just need to know going into it that's what you want and make sure that you've got those metrics in place to look at it. But that depends on the goals again that we've talked about this whole time. What if your goal is to build a repository of customer success stories? And
Mm-hmm.
so you're going to use this live video or podcasting tactic that we've been talking about, and you're going to reach out to customers and you're going to bring them on the show simply to ask them, where were they at before they started working with your business? What were their challenges and struggles? How did they figure out what to do next? And what did success look like? And of course, your story of how you came alongside. You're not the hero, they're the hero. As long as you came alongside that and helped them, that'll come out in the story. So then it might look like, well, just simply how many of those were we able to create in a given month or quarter or year, because those are going to be great content for sales and social media and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You might be working alongside of partners like you talked about, right? Going to a chamber of commerce or some other organization, looking for other businesses that are in your industry, but they're not direct competitors. So let's
Mm-hmm.
suppose you're a real estate agent. Well, you might want to talk to title companies and construction companies and mortgage lenders and all the kinds of people that your target audience has to work with those individuals as well. You can
Right.
bring those partners on your content and develop really on your show and develop really great content to reach your audience. And again, now you're going to be measuring a little bit of output there. You're not going to have the kinds of outcome that you might have if you're just straight looking at traffic. But
Mm-hmm.
the output's powerful. The
Yep.
output is going to look like you doing an interview with a title company or an inspector. That'd be really great if you're a real estate agent,
Right.
right? Let's talk to an
Home
inspector,
inspector. And then
right?
you can ask them, what are the things to look for when you're going through a
Exactly.
house?
That's going to be fantastic content. And if you make the inspector look good, they're going to share it with their audience, which spreads your brand awareness. So there's all these wonderful things that can happen if you're taking that kind of an approach,
Yeah.
that they might not have the same kind of data-driven measurements that other tactics and approaches and strategies might have, but it's still important that you are deciding in advance, all right, we're gonna look at output. We're going to look at deals that come directly from this. We're going to look at how many times our sales staff is able to take this content and use it in their conversations. If you've got sales staff, or maybe it's just you, right? How many times are you able to quote somebody else from your content in a sales message to a prospect? Those are all very valuable things that you're just going to think about and find a way to measure those.
Awesome. So where can people find you, Mike?
So if you've got questions about content marketing, social media, or AI, go to thesocialmediahat.com/connect. That's where you'll find all my social channels, my podcast, my blog, anything. That way, whatever channel you want to connect with me on, you'll find it there.
And Mike is there.
All over.
We're everywhere. I really appreciate your time, and everybody, thank you. I'm sorry we got bumped off. I don't know why they kicked us off, but we came back to say goodbye and wrap things up. I will I'll put my two pieces together and make a longer video out of this. Thank you so much for watching. Next week I will be live Tuesday at 1 o'clock with Sandra Sallin, and we are going to talk about authenticity. I'm sure you know Sandra as well, right? Mike, you know
Yeah.
Sandra, right?
Yeah, we've
So
connected.
yeah, she's amazing. She is an 83-year-old beauty blogger, and she's amazing. I mean, people say that, when you get to a certain age, you can't do the technology, and they're just not right.
Mm-mm.
So it's going to be a great talk. Santa's amazing. I appreciate your time, Mike. And thank you, everybody who watched live. And if you made it through both of them live, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day. Bye.